As Rotary, we often ask ourselves, how do we grow, personally, professionally and organisationally? The answer is simple. To grow Rotary, we need more Rotary clubs. Let's use Anytown as an example. Anytown is a city of 100,000 people and a home to one proud Rotary club. But there are hundreds of other people of action, just like us, who are uniquely qualified to become Rotary members. They share the same drive and represent the values and fundamentals of a Rotary member. So why aren't they members? Well, the current club meets on Monday. There are leaders in Anytown who can't meet on a Monday. By excluding this segment, the potential members in Anytown has shrunk. Now consider, what if the meeting is at noon on Monday? There are people who can meet on Monday but can't meet at noon. So now we have a smaller audience for Rotary in Anytown. Of the remaining group, some aren't interested in a club with a sit-down lunch and speakers. They're passionate about service but aren't interested in a traditional club experience, and that is okay. The Rotary Club of Anytown isn't doing anything wrong. It just doesn't appeal to particular segments of the community. And if we are going to thrive for years to come, we must adapt and embrace change. In Anytown, we have an opportunity to expand, because potential members are everywhere. More than half of the eligible people are prospective Rotary members, waiting to make a bigger impact in their community. But what Rotary Club exists for them? If Anytown creates new clubs at new times and new places, the hidden potential for Rotary will be revealed. As people of action, we must broaden our reach and provide opportunities to all leaders in the community. Together, all of us can grow Rotary.
Once again, it's time to play One Voice Every Club, a game that tests whether you can identify the correct Rotary logo.
All right, welcome to One Voice Every Club. May the best team win. All right, let's get started. Question 1. Which item uses the correct logo?
The banner.
Oh, try again.
The mug.
Oh, I'm sorry. The correct answer is the website. Now, this club used the logo properly by including their club name with the master brand signature. We don't use that old rotary wheel anymore, and the Rotary logo is never used as an object, like a bike wheel. All right, next question. Does this poster use the club logo correctly?
Yes, it's correctly branded.
No, I'm sorry. The branding is incorrect. Let's try again.
Yes, it's correctly branded.
You're right. Well done. Look how professional that poster is. You can tell that logo was created in our brand center. It uses the club name and Rotary logo in the proper font and color. A quick tip for all of you watching at home: always use your club logo consistently. It builds local awareness and global recognition. All right, we're almost out of time. Final question. Why is this the correct Rotary Club logo?
Because it uses the club's name with the Rotary logo.
You're right. Congratulations. You're the new champion of One Voice Every Club. Now that's all the time we have today. I'm your host, reminding you to retire those old Rotary wheels in your branding. And when Rotary clubs use a uniform logo, everybody wins. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. And don't forget to visit rotary.org/brand center to create your club logo.
калина похилилася. Чогось наша славна Україна зажурилася. А ми тую червону калину піднімемо, а ми нашу славну Україну hey, hey, розвеселимо. Rot blüht auf der Wiese die Kalina, wer hat sie gebeugt? Einst in voller Pracht die Ukraine, grad so sorgenvoll. Rot will einmal wieder die Kalina stark wie nie erblühen und in neuem Glanz die Ukraine, hey, hey, wieder aufrecht stehen. In the meadow there a red Kalina has been bent down low. For some reason how glorious Ukraine has been worried so. And we'll take that red Kalina and we'll raise it up. And we, our glorious Ukraine, shall hey, hey, rise up and rejoice.
What is Rotary? Rotary is a voluntary, non-profit, non-governmental, non-religious organization of industry professionals and academics working in intertwined autonomous networks providing self-education, exchange of knowledge, and humanitarian aid. It might sound complex, but it's built on a very simple philosophy. You go through life, working, studying, and taking care of your loved ones. But at some point, you might stop and feel a spark, an urge to not only do good, but to help others as well as yourself. Throughout life, you've had tons of ideas. All of them might not have been the most complex or the most developed, but it's the thought that counts, isn't it? When an idea is introduced into the Rotarian network, and we exchange thoughts, knowledge, and experience, ideas grow along with ourselves and are brought into reality. That is what Rotary is. We know that simple thoughts can become the beginning of something huge and life-changing for millions of people around the world. For us, it has led to projects like local mentorship programs, providing clean water, building schools, disease awareness campaigns, scholarships, exchange programs, wigs for cancer patients, teaching kids karate, providing medical care, blood donations, fighting illiteracy, protecting mothers and children, and emergency food supplies. And to think that our first project was a public toilet, and now we're on the brink of eradicating polio. We believe that with the right people, the smallest thing can make a huge difference. So when you feel the spark, remember Rotary.
Well, good afternoon and welcome back to session 2 of our Celtic multi-district pets. The numbers are building up in the room again, heading towards where we were this morning, which is brilliant. And we're ready to go for another afternoon. The facilitators reported back on some most enjoyable and highly participative and proactive morning breakout session. And I know this afternoon will be equally inspiring to you all. 2 brief reminders regarding breakouts and speakers, and that is to expect to be with different people in the breakouts this afternoon. by some magic, of course, when we had that little problem this morning, you all went back in the same rooms. We did have a worry that you might find yourself all over the place again, but that didn't happen. But you will be with different people this afternoon by design, and that's good. Also, of course, we have a guest speaker on with us in a moment that I'll introduce, and he will be taking questions. So remember to put a question to him, then please use the chat facility and find a participant in the event there that's titled questions, and then Chris Davies. And Chris will take those questions that you send her in chat and put them to our speaker at the Q&A time. We're making good time so far on this event. We finished, as you may have noticed on the schedule, a little bit earlier today, this morning's session, and hope to do so today again this afternoon. So for facilitators, really this is, we're not going to take the short break that we said we were going to in the program. We're moving straight through, and of course, being at home, if anyone needs to slip out for a minute, obviously you can do. So with that, let me introduce our next speaker. President-elect training is, as previously stated, it's all about the club and your members, as without them there's no club, and without them there's no projects or service delivered, and there's a gaping hole in the community. Someone that has been influential across the Rotary world and has inspired many clubs to change is Tom Gump. Tom's from, and I believe this is right, District 7690, he will tell us otherwise in a minute if it's wrong, in the USA. And Tom is the aide to the Rotary International President nominee, Stephanie, that we heard from via video this morning. And that's quite a heady duty that's going to keep him busy for the next 2 or 3 years. As well as these heady duties, he is passionate about membership growth. And we're delighted to have him with us today, live from the USA, to share his thoughts and experience with you. So just to let you know, Tom is actually located in the RI headquarters at the moment in Evanston in Chicago. And it's about 8 o'clock in the morning, which is an improvement on when we saw him last week, because last weekend when he joined the multi-district pets for Southern Wales and Southwest, he was back in Minnesota, I think it was, and at that time it was 5:30 in the morning. So you've had a lay-in, Tom, so that's good news for you. So Tom, welcome once again, and you've got your 40 minutes allocated to discuss, which will include your Q&A, which we know will be popular. So Tom, over to you, and thanks very much.
Well, thank you, Dennis, so much for allowing me to be here with the most important people in Rotary over our next year, and that is our president-elect. So let's everyone give a round of applause to our president-elects. That's right. And I'm not just saying that you're the most important people in Rotary. I know for a fact that you're the most important people in Rotary. You know, Dennis was right. If I didn't have my this wonderful virtual background celebrating your districts in Scotland and Ireland, you would see my office on the 18th floor of Evanston. And the reason I bring that up, and I'm glad Dennis brought it up, is because Rotary doesn't happen on the 18th floor. It happens in your clubs. And that's why you are the most important people. And that's the reason why this weekend was organized for you. You know, I was at, last year I was at a Pets, and my friend Bill Donnelly was ahead of education for that event. And I remember him saying, you know, that there are so many things you learn in Rotary, and there's so many things during the president-elect training seminar that you have to think about, from raising money to picking a board to, you know, running the daily meetings and the socials and all those things. And so I thought about it for a year, and what I did for you is I went through all the material there is about being a great president, from Rotary Leadership Institute materials to the Learning Center, and I boiled it down into 6 things, because I really believe if you do these 6 strategies and you implement them and really do them in all aspects, whether locally or internationally, you're going to be successful. You're going to be great presidents. And I tell you, it's going to be the best year of your life. You're going to be so connected to everyone in your club. They're going to call you and let you know when they have grandchildren. They're going to let you know when they have jobs. They're going to let you know when they're going on vacation. And they're going to be looking for you to make change. So you're just gonna absolutely love it. It was my favorite year when I in Rotary. So I have a little PowerPoint presentation. Since we're on video, I thought it would be good to share a few things. So for you to remember what we're going to talk about today, I came up with an acronym. It's ASPIRE. And each of these letters, the A, the S, the P, the I, the R, the E, is going to give you one of these 6 strategies. And I'm going to try to keep my remarks very brief because I understand that you have lots of questions. And that's always my favorite part of any presentation is the questions at the end, because I want you to leave with the knowledge that you came seeking here today. And I will also give you my contact information. I'll give you this PowerPoint so that you can refer back to it, or you can reach out and call me or text me, or every one of your wonderful leaders here today. They know how to get in touch with me. So I have this little picture here of a simple local project. This is a trash pickup day. That's me in the middle and my son to the left. Because I wanted you to know that if you practice these things, you could do it simply in your backyard. And you could also do it internationally. This is when I was with a couple of my friends doing one of my first international projects. But this is what I want you to remember today. These are the 6 things. You need to assess and act. You need to say thank you. And these things might seem simple, but they are the basis. It's like playing a sport and like playing basketball. If you do the layups, then you don't have to worry so much about the 3-pointers. They'll come too. You need to prepare and promote for your socials, your meetings, everything you do. You need to inspire, which is one of the most important things to do and what you're going to be best at by the time we leave here today. We're going to make sure we recharge and renew, and we're going to engage and enjoy. So let's get into this. Assess and act. You know, Rotary is like any business, right? We're providing a product. That product is basically the club experience. If people like the experience in your club, they're going to stay. They're going to bring their friends and family and people they work out with and worship with, and their neighbors, people they work with. But if you don't give them what they want, they're going to leave. So the important thing about the assessment is we're basically asking our club members, what do you want in our club? So how many of you, raise your hand if you actually do assessments at your club? Okay. And typically, when we asked most districts and clubs, they don't do surveys of any kind. And when we ask them when they do their surveys, they usually do exit interviews. Well, my belief and my experience has led me to the conclusion that doing a survey when people leave may not be the best thing for a Rotary club. Because if you think about it, you don't have time to make a change to keep that member. And also, they're Rotarians, they're nice people, so they might not tell you the real reason they're leaving. So surveys aren't hard to do. If you have a small club, you could just pick up the phone and call people and ask them, do you like where we meet, when we meet? Do you like our socials? Do you like our service projects? If you have a large club with several hundred people, you might want to consider doing an electronic survey. And there's all kinds of tools. And I've included those in my PowerPoint, but I know Steve Martin, your wonderful Rotary coordinator from your area, talked about those this morning. So we won't go into that in great detail, but I have lists at the end of the presentations that you can use later. So you don't have to worry about taking a bunch of notes. It'll all be there. And it's interesting when you conduct a survey, and if you're wondering how, you could simply go to My Rotary and type in membership survey. That'll give you a good survey form that you can use with your club members. Or you could do a club health check, which is something your board of directors for your club could do. But you don't have to follow those. A lot of times when people pull those up, they say, this is really complicated. There's too many questions. It's too large. You could put them in a simple Survey Monkey or other kind of program, and then just go ahead and send it out and get your answers. And when you get your answers, make sure that you act on them. It's so important to do a survey because if you think about it, your people are going to tell you, your club members are going to say, this president cares about me because she or he is asking for my opinion. And if you make that change that they're asking for, then they're going to feel like they belong to your club. And sometimes a survey as a president, it could solve a problem that you have. I remember last year, there was a club in my district, and the president called me because he said half the people wanted to do away with the 4-way tests, which, by the way, a president can't do. That's a council legislation deal. But And half the people, he said, wanted to keep the four-way test. So he said, what do I do? And it might sound simple, but I said, do a survey and call me back. So he did a survey, and he found out that of those 22 members, only 2 of the members wanted to do away with the four-way test. The other ones wanted to keep it. So sometimes you'll find out, and I'm sure you have in your other leadership capacities, that sometimes it's a vocal minority that is wanting to make the change. So a survey can help you go back to your members and say, well, the vast majority of you said this. So that's another reason why you could do an assessment. And don't worry about doing a survey and thinking that everyone's going to be really harsh. Only about my experience has been about 5% of the folks or less are dissatisfied and or very dissatisfied. But the reality is the reasons they are dissatisfied can be changed pretty easily. Sometimes it's a simple fix. They don't want to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning to get to a 7 o'clock meeting. So you could have a satellite club. So make sure you do that survey. And of course, there's different resources, and we won't go into all of them now because I know that you have questions that you want to ask. But this will be provided to you in a PDF form so that you can look at it later. So one of the most important things you can do as president is you can say thank you. You know, we were talking amongst ourselves before you got on, and I was asking, what are the most burning issues that you as presidents are saying? And what your DGEs, your wonderful district governor-elects told me is, you know, attracting members is one and retaining members. If you say thank you to your members, your retention rates will increase. Everyone likes a thank you. You could sit outside, you know, the country club or hotel that you meet and just shake their hands and smile and say, thank you for coming to that service. So I came up with a list, and again, you could take this with you, of the simple ways to say yes. You could do it in so many different ways. You could put up a board at your meeting, thanking people who came to the last service project. You could write them a hand thank you note. You could write them a note on their birthday. You know, you could publish their name and picture on social media. You could create a story about the volunteers in the newsletter. But if you say thank you, it's going to take you a long way. The other thing you need to do as president is you really need to prepare and promote for the meetings. You know, the meetings are really fun when you prepare for them. And it could be as simple as making up a PowerPoint. You know, it's funny, my wife sent me an article yesterday that was written by Warren Buffett, who's an investment person here in the US. And he said the difference between great people and really great people is that the really great people are able to say no. And I'm sure that was directed just towards me, but I am one of those people who tend to say yes a lot. But what's interesting is this article goes through and says, if you say no as a president, you could actually prioritize what are the most important things. And you can empower other people to do it. You know, so many times when I start a club, you know, there's that spark plug who's all excited about the club, and she or he may decide that she wants to do the newsletter. And I'm thinking of a particular instance in my mind. And she wanted to get the speakers and she wanted to do all that. The reason I bring this up is all that stuff needs to be done, but it doesn't need to be done by you. You can actually have other people get engaged and they'll feel like they have a job and they'll stay. And I bring that up for preparedness. When I was president, and it really was a fun year, I didn't do my slideshows every week. There was a lady in my club who had a human resource department, and she put up notices at various universities around my area. And I had a really good intern, and she put my PowerPoints together. I would just feed her information and she would do the PowerPoints. That's an example of what you can do as president, where you're getting the maximum out. You're in front of your club presenting, but someone else is helping you get ready. And the other thing you need to do, and Phil Dwyer on the call here is an expert, is promoting. I remember the first time years ago when I spoke in Rotary in Great Britain and Ireland, Phil was able to get 1,000 people on a virtual call for a membership program that we were doing because he promoted it. So when you're president, think of it as having two jobs. You have to do what you need to do, which is have the meetings, have the socials, have those, you know, fun service projects, but you need to promote it. You need to invite people to those things, not just your club members. You know, Rotary talks about participants a lot. It doesn't talk about always members and Rotaractors. It talks about participants. Why? Because that's everyone we touch, whether it be the youth services when we have youth exchange students come to our districts and stay with our districts. All those people are important because they're Rotary's future. So prepare for the meetings, promote them. When I say prepare, the other things you have to do when you lead a meeting is make sure that you respect the people's time. If you're having a service project, let's say, don't make your volunteers come 2 hours early if you only need 45 minutes to set up. And make sure your meetings are organized. Start and end on time. If you're going to have a speaker and you have a speaker that's going to speak for 20 minutes, at least that's the schedule. Don't give them only 5 minutes at the end. And these things are not only respectful to the speaker, it's also respectful to all the participants. You could find interesting programs by going to Rotary International. You could talk to your assistant governors, or you could talk to your governors. And Rotary actually has a calendar where every month, today is April 1, so we go into the environment this month. So that might be one way to, spruce things up. And when you have speakers, make sure you have a speaker committee. Don't have one person do all the speakers, because you might end up with just nonprofits or just business people or just politicians. When you have different people involved, you not only engage more people, but you have more greater variety. Now, the most important thing you can do as president is to inspire people. And I know we talk about a lot about membership and that kind of thing, but if you tell your own personal stories, people are going to be attracted to you and your club. One big mistake I made when I was president is I always thought it's not about Tom, so I didn't talk about my family. I didn't talk about me or any of that stuff. And people would ask me, who are you? People want to know, are you single? Are you married? Do you have family? They want to know who's leading them. So share your stories. This is a picture of in America, we have this Rose Bowl parade float, and it's gone back hundreds of years. And Rotary has a float in it every year. So you'll see our current president down there on the right with Nick. And I'm the Monopoly looking guy next to the big bowl in the middle. So, me telling my friends about this story, a bunch of us went the last couple of years, a new club that we started, to go out there and actually put roses in this float. And it was really fun. So if you have those stories, share them, because they want to hear about those stories. And if you don't have those stories, you can go to Rotary Magazine or call any of us, or actually just your governor. But people like the stories, and they like your stories as president. So tell those personal stories. You'll be surprised on what kind of impact you'll have with them. Now, the other thing you need to do is you need to recharge and you need to renew. Rotary, sometimes people call it a cult, right? Because people give their lives to it and they spend so much time with it. But I tell you, you can have so much fun as president if you keep Rotary a part of your life, but don't make it your entire life. This is my wife and son eating a banana split 2 years ago at the Rose Bowl parade. And it's funny, when I was president, I, with the help of my friends, of course, brought in 31 different new members to our club. And every week it got more fun because you got to see smiling faces, people from, your church, people from your work, people who are your neighbors, people you exercise with. So you can make Rotary a part of your life by bringing in all these people, and you'll be much better off. If you only focus on Rotary and you're not doing those other things, then we're just talking to ourselves and we're not talking outside, and we're not reaching out to the community and bringing more people into our community. So whatever you do, please don't get burned out. Please don't forget your family. Don't forget the other things you do, and your Rotary Club will be better off for it. So I was speaking last week in your wonderful area of the world, to Southern England and Wales. And someone sent me a note afterwards and said, I need to change the engage to engage and enjoy. And I thought that was just a brilliant idea, because if you enjoy being president of your club, that joy that you have serving Rotary is going to be infectious, and they're all going to get excited about it. If you make membership your number one priority, and I know it's hard, because there's all these priorities, but I chose to make membership my priority when I was president, because what I found out was when I started bringing in members, we had more hands to do that local service project, that international service project. We had more Paul Harris Fellow Society members. Everything we did, we had more of, and it got better. And there was just that wind behind your sail. But of course, today we talked with their district governor-elects, and they said we need to actually retain members, and that is so important. And he's right. I'm on the RI, Rotary International Membership Growth Committee, and it's very scary to me how many members we bring in every year, about 150,000. But we end up losing. Last year we gained, but for the last 20 years, we usually lose more than we bring in. But the really scary part is if you look when we lose them, usually over 50%, 52%, we lose in the first 3 years, and 10% we lose in the first year that they join. So last year we had 19,000 people leave Rotary in the same year they joined. And why is that? It's because we don't engage them. People don't leave Rotary International. They leave their club because that's all they know. But if we engage them, if we give them jobs to do, if we have a new member orientation, or we assign them to a specific committee, then they know a few people. Put them on that speakers committee, put them on the service committee, because then they have someone to eat lunch with or breakfast with. So engage and enjoy. So of course, I included a lot of materials, and we're just going to go, not even go through them. I just want to let you know there are these tools out there. Go to My Rotary, but also look at the people here that are leading this organization. Your district governors, your assistant district governors, all these wonderful past district governors, they can help you too. So now I'd like Chris to help me take your questions. And also I'm available to you whenever you need me. Thank you.
To think about. We've talked 2 or 3 times today about the Rotary Health Check, and Steve mentioned it as well. Can you just tell us a little bit more? Oh,
sure.
You haven't been hearing me, have you?
No, but I got health check, and that's enough for me to answer. I'll be responsive, I promise. And if not, just
well, if you could just tell us a little bit about how you actually ran one in your club.
So, the last one I did wasn't in my club, it was at our district. And what we did is we went to Rotary and we pulled off the survey, the member health check that you said. And what we did is we simplified it, Chris, because we figured, what do we really need to know to be a good president of our clubs and to be a good district? And what really the president needs to know, he needs to know, do they like when we meet? Do they like where we meet? Do they like our topics for our speakers? And do they like the socials and the service projects? Really, if you put it down to those 5 things, Chris, that's what we really want to know. Now, there's a lot of details, and Rotary International does a fantastic job. And I've been studying the surveys as part of the membership team, the committee. I don't like the word committee. If you could change it to team, everybody wants to be part of your team. Nobody wants to be part of a committee. But our membership committee, we looked at the surveys, Chris, and it's interesting because what we found out is the number one reason people leave their clubs is because of their club experience, the club culture. So if you can make that culture into something that I like to call simply irresistible, people will stay. So how do you do it? Ask them what they want. And the important thing, Chris, is that we do this regularly. Because if you think about it, every year there's new people coming into your club and there's people leaving. So that culture might change. So Rotary International suggests that you conduct a survey at least once a year. Was that responsive to your question, Chris?
Yes, it was. Thanks very much.
Thank
Obviously,
you.
lip reading is another of your skills, Tom.
I've been practicing since 2020. Since COVID. Yeah.
I know some of our PEs here will be active people within their businesses and within their communities. You said learn to say no and to delegate. What sort of skills do you need for that?
I think you need to be humble enough to accept the premise that you're not perfect and that you can't do everything yourself. I was one of those individuals where I really believe Chris, and all you president-elects out there, and you're going to be president, you're going to be leading your club in 91 days. This is the time for you to prioritize. But if you're doing everything, you can't prioritize and you can't focus. And the action plan priority, the fourth action plan priority of our strategic plan, it tells us we need to adapt, but in order to do that, we need to focus. So when I was president, I was focusing on membership. What I did, I had a lot of friends, so I brought those friends in. But I was smart enough to, when we had our board meetings, we didn't talk, we always talked about the financials and minutes and all that, but we talked about membership first before we got to anything else. And I assigned my friends to different people on the board. So if I had a retired friend and she was, 70 or so, I would fix her up with another female board member who was 70 or so, so she can follow up. I didn't think that I had time to tell all my friends all the wonderful things about Rotary because I only had a certain number of hours in the day. So I think admitting that you can't do everything is the biggest step you can take in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Tommy, last week when we were, as you say, at the Southwest thing, you mentioned that your wife is a member of quite a small club, which is a very different experience, I guess, from yours. A lot of our clubs are small, and a lot of them are having a gap between any new joiners we're getting and the older members in the club. How do we cope with that culture?
I'm sorry if I try to make or sound like I'm making everything easy, but Chris, it really is easy. I think a small club needs to realize that it could be small and mighty at the same time, and it can't shy away from doing impactful things. And you're right, I'm in the smaller club. I'm 83 and my wife's got 250, so she's in the bigger club. So what we do is we share youth exchange. That's an important part of what Catherine and my son Andrew and I do. We have an exchange student from the Czech Republic, and it adds so much energy to what we do and adds so much energy to our club. So our club was thinking, well, we don't have a lot of money to do youth exchange. So we partnered up with my wife's club. They put in the money, we put in the youth exchange host families, and we get things done. So if you're a smaller club, don't think you can't do that international service project. Get a local club to partner up with and do it. You could have great impact as a small club. And the more you do, the more you're going to realize people are going to want to be a part of that club. I'm not a big person into the elevator speech. I remember we were here for Pets Alliance a few months ago in Evanston, and that's where the heads of all the pets get together to talk about, what the you as PEs and PNs want to get out of pets. And I had to go by the bar in order to get to the elevator to get to my hotel room. And so there's a bunch of people at the bar. And they said, Tom, come over here. And it was the strangest thing I ever saw. There were 15 Rotarians, and they were all, I don't know how to describe it other than they were having an intervention with the bartender, saying that he has to join Rotary. And they were pounding him with, we do this, and we do service projects, we do youth exchange. And they asked me, Tom, we need to convince this person to join Rotary. Give us your elevator speech. And I said, I don't have an elevator speech. They said, how can you be our membership expert and you don't have a, I'm sorry I'm laughing so much. I'm taking this very seriously. It's just stress relief because I know how important it is that I motivate you and inspire you as president-elect today. But I said, the most important thing we can do as presidents, if we're going to attract people, is we need to listen to them. So I just asked the bartender, young man in his 20s, what do you want most in your life? And he said, well, right now I'm studying to be an engineer. I want to be able to rub shoulders with people of significance in my community in that area. So that was the answer, but it wasn't the answer that's 15 us Rotarians were thinking. So I think as a president, let's listen to them, and then I think we could grow. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. One of the other things you mentioned, Tom, was that the fact that so many people leave, certainly after 3 years, but an awful lot of people do leave in their first year. This is very much a problem in our islands. how do you think we can stop this? It's a big question, but
Yeah, and thank you very much for asking that very important question. And we have the same issue in North America. And what we discovered is when we talked to the people who have left, is they didn't feel comfortable in their club. And this is a big ask, but as presidents, I would ask you to think about the larger Rotary. Because when I was a president, I had this goal that I was going to bring in all these members, and I didn't share the actual number of my goal because I thought people would laugh at me. Because they're saying bring in 7 people. But what I found out is if you bring them in and they leave, it doesn't do any good. So think about in your new member orientation, tell them about how great Rotary is. And if someone's leaving because their experience didn't fit, tell them about another club that they might fit in. I mean, if you think about it, in Rotary International, we have Rotary action groups that help you plan projects, experts that help you fund it. We have Rotary Fellowship, RV, that's what we call recreational vehicles. I got to be careful when I talk over here. I used to make a joke about a garage, and then after, I don't know, I think it was Nikki called me up and says, garage is not where we park our cars, it's where we get petrol. So, so I'm being careful not to tell too many of my normal dad jokes. But seriously, if we make our clubs a place where they want to be, then they won't leave. And how do we know how they want to be? Ask them. And Chris, so many times we talked about today, the district governor-elects said we want to get young people in. Well, that's great. We can invite young people and they can join, but we don't want them leaving 3 weeks later. So what do? Ask them to bring their friends and ask them for 3 or 4 of them to join together as a group. And when they come in, give them their own service project that they can work out and be proud of. So they're doing it as a class. So every time they come to your breakfast meeting or your lunch meeting or your dinner meeting, they'll have their friends and they'll stay. Why do people stay after 3 years? We've been focusing on they leave, right when they come in. Well, they are like all of us on this call today. They have their lifelong friends. I would never leave my traditional club. Sometimes I speak about when people want me to about forming new clubs, but I've never left. I've helped form dozens of clubs around the world, but I never left my club because I have my friends there. So we just have to know that they belong. We talk so much, Chris, about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Well, that's all stuff that the club is doing to make things welcoming. But what we really need to talk about is belonging. We want people when they start to feel like they belong to that club. When I was first president, I was proud that I was bringing these people in. And PDG, friend of mine, a great guy, says, well, that doesn't matter if you're not going to do a new member orientation, and our club wasn't doing one at the time. They're not going to stay. And I thought that was really wise. So as a president, make sure you're leaving it great for your president-elect and president nominee. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. And Alan from Lockerbie and Districts has said that how important it is to recognise the donations and that the community and what it represents to the community. We are, as Rotary, are nothing without their contribution.
Great point, Alan.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So true.
One of the other things that you talked about was, and again, we've looked at that a little bit already, but there's a lot of concern at the moment, I think, about culture and the way that Rotary culture is changing. And I think some people feel that some really good things are going out with the change. So have you experienced that as well?
Yes, I'm very glad you brought that up. First, I think we need to realize that change is important. We're an organization that's been around 118 years, and no organization lasts that long unless you're able to adapt. So it's funny when we actually go to pets, I'm always concerned about how do we make next year's pets better? So when there's president nominees, if I'm ever have any say in a pets, I say, can we get the president nominees together and ask them what they want next year? And Chris, the question you ask is one of the top 3. It's always, how do I grow membership? How can I be a good public speaker? And how can I make change in my club without alienating or upsetting people?
Yeah.
So just last year, it wasn't this past International Assembly, but an International Assembly before, Rotary came up with a change model. And it's interesting, they show it graphically with a wheel, where first you do an assessment, you do the survey, and then you actually go down the wheel. And this wheel, you can go back if you feel like you're not making progress. And then when you get to the top, then you start over again with another survey. But what they talk about is communicating the change and letting people know what's important. Let's say if it was my club, I would say membership is important. I'd paint a picture for them of how they can make, how the club could be better off if we grow that membership. Then you come up with a communication plan, you come up with the tools. But then when it comes to implementation, and this gets to answer your question, and sometimes it's hard to answer these questions with short terms and get the premise of it. But what they do is they say in implementation, the most important part of the 6th step is this implementation, and it's nurturing the people who are adverse to the change. You know, trying to make a change by yourself as president is like pushing a wet noodle. It doesn't go anywhere. But if you involve your president-elect, because in 91 days you'll be leading your clubs, and you involve the president nominees and the other influencers, you know, make sure that the people who are not supportive of the change, find out why they're not supportive. Because so many times in my personal experience, they feel like they're going to be left out. You know, my friend Stephanie, RIP and Stephanie, Rotary National President nominee Stephanie. By the time it's President Stephanie, my job's so much easier because I could just say President Stephanie, she'll a less long title. She tells a story about her club, and there was a treasurer named Byron, and Byron was treasurer for 28 years. Well, you know, if you ask someone else to be a treasurer because you're trying to get new blood in, make sure you comfort and nurture Byron and say, hey, Byron, we need help with our gala. We need help with our golf tournament. Can you put together a manual or a flash drive that'll help the next person? So if you nurture them, that change is accepted and you won't lose people. So don't be afraid to change. Bring people along, nurture the people who are resistant to it, and then do that survey and see what the next change needs to be. Thank you.
I've written nurture on my notepad. Thank you very much, Tom. And one final thing, you talked about clubs working together and small clubs partnering with other clubs. That sometimes can lead to conflict, but it can also really work well. How do you think we can avoid the conflict?
Well, to put it simply, you can do a joint new project that neither one has territory in. You know, the December before last, I wanted to serve our new neighbors to my community, the Afghan refugees. So I brought 5 clubs together and we started a program. That was the picture you saw in the Engage, but I was trying to get through it quickly to get to the questions. And so we brought 5 clubs together, and I tell you, we had members in our clubs who we weren't seeing because they just didn't like the service projects we were doing. They were kind of burnt out of doing the same old thing. So when we started bringing, and it eventually got to over 200 Afghan refugees with about 20 Rotarians, we were finding them jobs. We translated the driver's manual into Pashtun and Dori because we listened to the refugees and they said, we can't get jobs because we can't drive, and we can't drive because we don't have a driver's license manual. I had just brought my friend Peter into the club 2 weeks earlier and he was trying to fit in. Well, you know, Pashtun and Dori aren't translatable in Google Translate, but Peter, my friend who just joined my club, he worked for a hedge fund and he had software that was able to do that. So he did that and worked with the community to get it all tweaked up. But other people who we thought were going to leave our club came back because they liked helping these people find jobs. They liked helping them sign up for a library card so they could have internet. There was no territory because my wife's club, they didn't own it. My club, we didn't own it. You know, we were starting it, but our other 3 clubs, you know, that's a way to do it, Chris. Start a new project. Then there's no territory you have to divide up.
Thank you. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm laughing here, Tom, because
I'm sorry, I'm laughing too. I'm just enjoying this.
Callum Dick has written to me and said, you've written nurture, I've written wet noodle. All I can say is, Callum, I've written wet noodle as well. I think
yes.
And I think that is a little bit about what you were describing a minute ago. Let's avoid the wet noodle. I'm just going to quickly go through my notes to make sure that I've covered everything, Tom. Yeah, I'm just going to finish on a final one. And again, you've touched on this earlier, but you've said inspire by telling personal stories.
Mhm.
So how do you tell whether something is actually a personal story that people are going to laugh at, particularly if you use some lovely words like wet noodle, but also how much of the club do you really want how much do you want the club to really know what your personal life is about?
You know, Chris, it depends on who you are as president, it depends who you are as a person. But it's easy, at least when I was president, to think that my stories weren't worthy. So I want to share a story with you as an example. So people wonder why I spend a lot of time on Rotary. And it's because I feel that Rotary has given me so much more than I could give Rotary back. So, one story. A few years back, we had a wonderful youth exchange student named Paco. And you could have called him Happy Paco because he was smiling, was happy. He's one of those rare kids who actually, he does well in school, he does well in sports. He was playing the national soccer team for his age in Valencia, Spain. And so, and he always wanted to help out, whether we're doing dishes or yard work. It was quite nice. So two, 2 weeks into it, I came down and Paco was just sobbing uncontrollably. And I couldn't even ask him. I tried to ask him what was wrong, couldn't tell me. So I picked up the phone, I called his mother, and I said, you know, what's wrong with Paco? He's crying. I've never seen him like this before. And he won't tell me why. And she said, well, his father just died and he had only been gone 2 weeks. Um, and I just told him. So I said, okay, Catherine, Andrew, and I will get on a plane. We'll bring Paco home for the funeral. And she says, there's not going to be a funeral. And Paco is to stay with you at your house for the whole year. Not usually you go 3 months, 3 months, and 3 months because it matches up with our school system and the exchange students live with different families. So I said, okay, can we fly you here to be with us? So she flew here with Paco's younger brother, Danny, who must have been, Paco was 16, Danny was 8, and this all has a point. And then Sarah was 6. And so when they got here, they let us know, well, she let Paco and Catherine and I know, not the other kids, that Paco's father had died via suicide, which all the psychologists told us that's the worst form of abandonment that anyone could ever have, especially a teenager, because a teenager seems to see the world egocentrically, that everything is related to them. So they must have done something to cause this. So my Rotary Club, this is always a hard story for me to get through without crying. And then nobody takes a speaker credibly if you cry. So we had a memorial service. You know, we're Catholic and Paco's family is Catholic. And suicide is one of those, they wouldn't have a service there, but we had a service at our church. And we had 250 Rotarians from all over the district. So I learned that night, and for the rest of the year, I mean, people bring their dogs over so Paco could have a dog for a while because we no longer have a dog. I learned that Rotary is a family. So is that story worthy to tell? No, but it was important to explain me. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Tom, thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm joking as well. That was a lovely story. Thank you. And thank you too for the personal time that you've given to this particular pet. Not Phil and I know and Dennis that we were working with you at 11:30 our time yesterday in order that we could get Stephanie's video done. So thank you for the personal time you give to Rotary, and thank you for the time you've given to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom, thank you so much. And we're opening up with a wonderful story. Other people have those, and I'm sure a lot of people were touched by that as well. Thank you for sharing your time and the wealth of experience that you have. Our presidents-elect here are ranging from just a few months in Rotary to several decades, I'm quite sure. But it's never too late to pick up new ideas and approaches, or to confirm that what we're doing is good and it's a way forward. Sometimes we need validation. Sometimes we need lots of new ideas, and you've given us that food for thought as well. So we're going to move on to our next speaker in a moment, who's going to lead us into the breakout. So Tom, if you must leave, then do so, but you're most welcome to stay and listen to what's going on. I think you might want to listen to Joe, I think you said earlier on. But we give you our best wishes for the coming year. You've got a great job ahead of you with Stephanie, and we look forward to seeing and hearing from you again in the very near future. So thank you very much indeed. We now move to the next speaker ahead of the second breakout, as I just said, and I'm delighted to introduce past District Governor Joe Pawley. Joe was a district governor, or was a district governor in 1020, so many of you know her. And Joe knows a thing or two about running and managing Rotary clubs. And now she will set the scene for us for that exact topic, managing and running your Rotary club, before we move into our discussion groups in a few moments. So Joe, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Dennis. Thanks, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to follow Tom, to be honest, but I'll give it a go, and let's spend some time learning about preparing and managing for your year ahead. So the slide this morning, and indeed it was repeated this afternoon, said, "Ever been told you can't do it like that?" I think we might have all heard that in our Rotary careers. So, well, it's now for the president-elect your time to make a difference. Rotary is very much a personal thing, as we've heard. If you take pride in your club and give some of your personal time, thought, effort and energy, then your club will be much stronger and more valuable to your community. A club that operates smoothly is on its way to becoming a successful club. And it doesn't matter, as we've heard, if your club is large, with very large numbers that Tom has, or indeed is small, with my own club only having 15 members. And it doesn't matter whether you're in a city or a more rural area. In 3 months' time, so it's 3 months from today, as Tom has said, you will be the leader of your club. And it's a great honour to be president of your Rotary Club, as your club members, believe it or not, have shown that they have faith in your abilities to lead. Some may question my abilities to lead, as I'm going to be a president-elect, or I am a president-elect, and I'll be president again next year. But it may be that this is your first time being president, or like me, it could be your third time. Or as Dennis has said earlier, I'm possibly a serial repeat offender. But whatever, your club has faith in your abilities. So what is important is your willingness to learn and lead, as well as to inspire and motivate, as we've heard. Speaking, as I said, as a president coming in for a third time, it really is a case of what you put in is what you get out. And this translates from Newton's third law of motion. Bit of physics, every day's a school day. Every action has an opposite or equal reaction. The theory of motion applies to Rotary. We are not static. The Rotary wheel turns every year. We grow, we learn. And from this year, from the 1st of July, it will be you. It is fun being president. We've heard Stephanie Urchick this morning say that it's a magical experience, and it is going to be. I promise you, it will be a magical experience, because this is your year. And from day one, it will go very, very quickly, believe me. You may be not able to do everything that you want to do in planning for your year, but you will do a whole pile of other things that you haven't even thought of. So just be prepared for that. And it's your enthusiasm which is infectious, and that's what resonates through your club, and that's what will make your club experience. You have to be enthusiastic on everything that you do, even if some days you're feeling a bit off. Gordon McAnally, and I think everybody on the call probably knows who Gordon McAnally is, has said to the district governors when they met for the International Assembly that continuity is advancing good ideas that have been before you. It's embracing best ideas and partnerships, no matter where those partnership or ideas have come from. And being on the call this morning, some presidents-elect are only coming to the idea of continuity, and indeed some clubs are only coming to the idea of continuity. But we heard this morning that one of the key themes of continuity is the Empowering Girls theme, which started with Shaker, which has continued with Jennifer Jones during her year this year, and Gordon is going to continue that theme. So if Rotary International presidents can work together for continuity, then we in our clubs should be able to do that as well, because that's what leads our clubs to be successful. Each club operates differently. Some may say that we are all strange and unique, and some of us are, but I'll let you decide onto which category you fall into, if you're the strange or just unique. But it's important that you know how your club works, and you're in the best position to know that, whilst also adhering to all of the current Rotary Great Britain and Ireland policies. Now, all clubs have common goals, no matter how big or how small they are. And these goals are not rocket science. And they consist of 4 areas: that we as Rotarians will carry out projects, that we as Rotarians will strengthen membership, and I would add retain members as well, as we've heard this morning, and that we as Rotarians will support foundation, and we as Rotarians will develop leaders out with our club. Tom mentioned his Aspire tips with 6 things, which is really good to help you become the best president that you can be. Assess and act, say thank you, prepare and promote, ASPI, inspire, thanks Tom, engage and enjoy. I'm hoping to set the scene for you on prepare to manage your club. What you will do to manage your club, not only during your year, but following your year, to help make sure that there is consistent continuity there. You need to engage with both your past president, because they were in your shoes last year and may have great advice for you, and with your president-elect, as they will be in your shoes this time next year. Build a bridge to the next year, to paraphrase Gordon. You'll need both of them during your year. You have responsibility for goals, aims, planning, as well as administrative responsibilities to manage your club. And I want to bring some attention, some thoughts on both the goals and the administrative responsibilities. There are 3 main administrative responsibilities as president to manage your club, which you need to be aware of. These are, firstly, completing the Rotary Great Britain and Ireland compliance forms, which you should be doing at your first meeting. These are the signing off of the general data protection, the equality and diversity policy, the health and safety policy statements, and also the safeguarding for children and vulnerable adults. Adherence to these documents should ensure that no club inadvertently finds itself in breach of these areas of law. It's worth sending them out to all of your club members, because as club president, you signed to say that your members and your club will adhere to those policies. So it's your responsibility, and it's an important responsibility. Also, you need to make sure that you comply with insurance requirements. If you are unsure about a club activity being covered by insurance, please ask. Don't do what my own club did and got involved with some chainsaws and then thought about asking insurance, whether insurance would cover it. Thankfully, nobody was harmed. Secondly, ensuring good stewardship of club funds. Okay, what does that mean? What does ensuring good stewardship of club funds means? Well, this can include monitoring of club funds, making sure that all members pay their subs, and indeed finding out why some members maybe haven't paid their subs or are late paying their subs, paying district subs on time, and having an annual review of club finances. In December of last year, you will have chosen, and your club will have chosen and appointed your treasurer and secretary. We trust these people, we know these people, but stewardship is your responsibility as club president. So my questions to you are on good stewardship. Have you considered How are you going to monitor your club bank account? Do you have a charity account that forms part of your bank account? Do you have to complete Oscar returns or the charities regulator forms in Ireland? Does your treasurer attend their district training sessions? If not, how are you going to get them to go? Do you have a treasurer that Tom mentioned that has been there for 28 years? How do you encourage them to go? Things have changed. Have you thought about how are you going to, collect club donations? Are you going to think about doing it by a card machine? Are you going to do it by QR codes? The things that change each year. So there's always a learning experience for your officers and for you as club president. What happens if something happens to your treasurer? Do you do internet banking? Does somebody other than the treasurer have the code to the banking system so that you don't have to start from scratch? And we all know how difficult working with banks can be. Are you confident with figures and accounts? I'll be honest, I'm not, but I've had to learn. Have you worked out a club budget for your year? Do you know how much it costs to run the activities that your club does, and how do you fund them? Thirdly, you have overall responsibility for operating youth activities. Yep, I don't know how many of you knew that, but you do. And that's one of your major responsibilities, but with the support of your youth team chair. But do you know your club procedures? Do you know your district youth protection policies? And don't forget, you've signed to say that you're going to adhere to them. So you might need to do some research onto them. What's your risk management strategy for youth activities? For those on the youth team, if you've not got them, then you possibly need to make sure or consider, in Scotland, for example, a PVG, in Northern Ireland, an Access NI, and in the Republic of Ireland, a guaranteed certificate. And what happens if you get new members to the team? Don't forget that they may need those documents as well, and have sensible precautions for not putting any Rotarian in a position where they could be vulnerable. Remember, as I've said, you've signed both the child protection policy and the vulnerable adult policy, so you really need to have some thoughts about this. But not only do you have the administration responsibilities, but you have responsibilities for setting goals, aims, and plans for the year. Have you thought about them? There's 91 days to go. Your plans need to be in place, especially as the club assemblies will happen before the 1st of July. Have you watched Gordon's speech about his plans and aims? It's a good place to start. It's only about 25 minutes long, and it's well worth watching to give you some ideas and maybe bridge the gap in your thoughts about what you want to do. Watch it and you'll get the bridge reference, which is particularly relevant for Scotland. There is also a great one-page document on the Learning Centre titled Creating Your Club Leadership Plan. I love it. It's one page and it's got lots of colour on it. It's great. And it asks you questions about where does the club want to see itself in 3 years? How do you ensure continuity? What kind of activities as president have you planned? How do you communicate? How do you involve your members? All things that we've talked about or have heard about on the sessions that have started this morning. I'm sure that this document, and indeed the link to Gordon's speech, can be shared with you following on from the end of this weekend. So what are your personal goals for managing your club? You need to set them, but what are they? Perhaps it's to promote projects or activities that illustrate how your club is making a difference to your own local community. Perhaps, as Gordon has asked, it's a project to help reduce the stigma of mental health. Perhaps it's to get all of your members to have a My Rotary account that Steve mentioned earlier. Perhaps it's to do 50 projects in a year to celebrate your club's 50th anniversary. Perhaps it's to make your club more attractive and active, to encourage new members and retain members, as Tom has mentioned. Perhaps it's to use Rotary Club Central either more or indeed for the first time. Perhaps it's to do courses in the Learning Centre. Good ones on being a president are there if you've not done them, and they are worth doing. And perhaps it's to obtain your club's 10th Rotary International citation, your 10th in a row, or even get your first one. You may all laugh, but we're hopefully in my own club on our 4th, and I really want to make sure that we get 5 as well. I know it's not the be all or end all, but it's nice to have your work recognised, and it's nice for your club members to be recognised for the work that they do as well, because you are part of the team. Perhaps it's to have card machines, as I've mentioned, to take donations, or to use QR codes on the posters that you prepare for the activities and events you run. Or perhaps it's to join the Gin Fellowship. There's actually also beer fellowships and whiskey fellowships. And surprisingly enough, there are fellowships that exist that don't have anything to do with alcohol, but I'm not sure how many members they have. I'm sure Tom might be able to have told us that. Whatever you do, your goals are down to you and your club. You will need your club to help you achieve the goals that you want. But in setting your goals, please consider how you will communicate them. Do you have a timescale for them? How will you know when you have actually achieved them? Who will help you achieve them? And how will you make requests for assistance? How will you manage the expectations within your club? And how will you address any challenges that may arise? What happens if it doesn't quite go to plan? Could you give constructive feedback? How will you motivate your club members so that they all become involved? Does your club have any long-term goals or plans already that you can build on? The world has changed after the pandemic, and we do need to change. We've already heard about Rotary's 4 key goals and plans. Can you incorporate those into the plans that you have for your club during your year? To remind you, those 4 key goals are very, very simple. To increase our impact, to expand our reach, to enhance participant engagement, or support clubs to better engage with their members and indeed other people that you come into contact with, and to increase our ability to adapt. How will your plans fit into this? In the next breakout session, you will be asked to consider what is one area of your club operations that you would like to improve. We've already established that you are the best person that knows your own club. You know perhaps what you feel could be done in a better way, and you also know what has perhaps irritated you over the last few years that you've been itching to change but haven't been able to do that. Maybe you'd like mentoring for new members. Maybe you'd like greater social media presence. Maybe you'd like your website to work better. And maybe if you're a small club, and this is a bit controversial, or as Steve would say, perhaps revolutionary, maybe you want to move away from a formal club council and discuss matters as a whole club so that no one is excluded. It might also be that you want to work better with your fellow presidents, assistant governors, or even your district team. Remember the slides that we've seen this morning and this afternoon. We are all one team working together, working for the benefit of our communities and working to make sure that Rotary in these islands continues and thrives. To be a good leader, you do have to realise that it's also okay to reach out and involve others, to say that you need help and advice. People want to feel valued and be needed. And there are many, many resources that are out there that can help and inspire you. You only have to look at the human resources that you've got. Those are your own network, a support network, your continuity team within your club, the longer serving members of your club, your assistant governors, your district team leaders that are there to help you during your year, your district governor. They're approachable, believe it, they really are, and they want to hear from you. And also Rotary Great Britain and Ireland Club and District Resources at Alcester. Andy Smith, brilliant, but don't tell him I told you to phone him if you've got a problem, because he'll really take me off his speed dial number. There are so many online resources that we've already talked about. My Rotary, you do need to get a My Rotary account if you haven't got one. This is your year to imagine how you and your club can create hope in the world. It's your year to manage your club. I hope that I've set the scene for you, but we'll leave you with two thoughts. The first one is, you can't wing your year. You will fail. You do need to prepare for it. You will do yourself and your club a disservice if you don't. And finally, the American Army uses the 6P motto. Some of you may have heard of this already. I think I can only use 5 of the P's because otherwise I'm going to get into trouble and Dennis will tell me off. And the 5 P's are prior planning prevents poor performance. You need to look back on your year and believe that you and your club have created hope in the world and that you've had fun whilst you did it. So thanks for listening. I hope I've set the scene for planning and some of the things that you need to think about. That's me done. Thanks, Dennis. I think, Dennis, you're on mute.
I'm not now. There we go. I was waiting for my picture to come up. Anyway, thank you, Joe. Wow, what a checklist you presented us with there. So many things to think about, and now we've got the breakout time to go and think about them. Planning and preparation is all. We've all heard those 5 P's or the 6 P's before. So here we go into the second breakout for the day. The second rule, the same rules apply as before. You'll be allocated randomly into a breakout room where a facilitator will be ready for you. We do hope that it won't jump you all out like it did last time. That was a first and only occurrence in our experience. And please, facilitators, be ready, because 3 of you will be asked to provide some feedback afterwards to see how it went and give us some thoughts about the discussions that you've had. So with no further ado, and big thanks to Jo once again for her thoughts there for you all to set the scene. I ask our tech team, please, to press the button, and off we all go to our breakouts on planning and managing the club.
And somebody joined in late there. We got him.
Yeah.
David.
We've got Dougal Fraser in the room here still.
Yeah.
David Hinkler.
And David Eckler.
Yeah. Give me one moment.
Yeah.
Off they go.
And who is live presentation?
That's the second machine where we're doing an additional recording on.
Excellent.
Right.
Excellent.
Okay.
We're recording on about 3 different machines.
3 different machines. Live presentation, AS backup. Brilliant. Brilliant.
We get our money's worth out of Zoom that way. Make it work.
Sorry,
well
Bob,
done. Thanks, Joe, for that.
Well done, Joe.
Thank you. I wasn't too sure. I think I got the difficultest one. Thanks, Chris.
Well, as a president-elect for this year, actually, I thought it was great. So,
oh, brilliant! Thanks, Wendy.
It was good. Really good. Really good.
Sorry, Bob. Have you just seen the note I've just put in?
Yeah, I've just seen it. Sorry, I missed it.
So it might mean that if he still has problems, one of either you or Chris might have to jump in there.
Okay.
So, Chris, how many questions did you get?
Chris, you're on mute.
She's counting.
I was trying to frame my answer. I had
a nice round number.
No, there were 2, but they were comments rather than questions. So yeah, isn't it funny? I mean, I must have got 8 or 10 from South West Wales and South West England.
So you kept yourself armed with those ones, did you?
No, I just made it up. I went along as usual.
Yeah. We had a bit more reserved in Scotland. That's all it is.
That's what it is. I think as well, to be fair, I think using the Q&A manager as we did South West South Wales is a little bit easier than finding someone on chat. And I think too,
we perhaps need to bear that in mind, because I was panicking like anything, as Phil will know, because I didn't know where the Q&A box had gone. And then when you enlightened me, and I thought, well, that's no good, because they're all going to see the questions in the question box. So
no, the chat's actually set again for only hosts and co-hosts.
Oh, that's reassuring. That's how you didn't know how many questions I'd had. Nobody else will have done then either. That's good.
Right.
Yeah, so they should only be able to see those of us that are hosts and co-hosts, and obviously you are marked as questions, Chris. But it's down to the account that we do this on. It's if you have a business account with Zoom meetings, now you get the Q&A. But if you don't have that level of Zoom account, then you don't get the Q&A. So we had it last week because we were on the GB&I account, but this week we're on one of the Scotland accounts.
Well, but the Scotland account is a business account.
No, because you have to have like 10 users to have a bit business account.
Sorry, say it again.
It's not Narek. It's a pro account with a large number, a large attendance.
So you're talking about you're talking about not the pro account. You're talking about the corporate account.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because I checked that out for Wendy before. Yes, the account that we're on can take up to 1,000 participants. So numbers wise, it wasn't a problem. But I checked but we didn't have that on the account. We just
That's all right.
We have a pro account with a large a large add-on.
What would be helpful though is I don't know whether we'll do it tomorrow or as a follow-up. I think it will be interesting for us to see the Q&A anyway, the questions specifically or any kind of comment, just to be able to kind of respond to our president-elect or any other participants who might be raising a question or anything else.
The only stuff I have in the chat is really the mechanics of, is this happening? When's this happening? I haven't had any comments from any of president-elects.
Those are not really important.
Bob, have you got 3 facilitator names at random, please?
I have. If you give me 30 seconds, there we go. We can have, I would suggest, Ian McLean.
Yeah.
Malcolm Halliwell. And Peter King.
Okay, lovely, thank you. And Tom was great value again.
He was, yeah.
Yeah, and he really did get very emotional, didn't he? With that
He did with that last one, didn't he? Yeah.
And I was getting a bit that way myself. It was, and I love his wet noodle.
Yeah, trying to push a wet noodle. Yeah.
Say everything.
Yeah.
It was really good.
I thought he'd said push a wet poodle, I must admit, initially.
You know, everybody here's what they're interested in.
Well, there's an old novel twist.
Wrangling a wet poodle might be easier than wrangling Rotarians on occasion anyway.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he did do a lot, as some of you know, last night with the, I think Stephanie was ready to bail out at one point, but
Oh right, so he managed to talk her into it.
Well, I don't know if he did, but I mean, what time was it? She contacted us something about it was 11:30 with us, and she was on a plane ready to get back to her house, where she would get at 11:30 there. So it was.
Well, I think Phil was still emailing at 1:30 because he'd been on a RI meeting that didn't start till 11 last night for him. So
I thought it was just dedication that he was there at 3:30 in the morning. Mind you, it's dedication anyway, whatever it is.
He's so dedicated that we're having to lip read. You're on mute, Phil.
He's just refusing to react.
She sent me a note about 11, said that when she got in, she was going to shower, change, remake up, redress, and record it, check it, then send it to me. Well, I had gone to bed then, so it came in at 3:45. But anyway.
Yes,
yeah, it's got the wrong backdrop on, but you don't have the heart to sort of take them to task for that.
Yes, can you go and do that again, please? You've got the wrong backdrop. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll if I can edit it and put the current theme on, I will. But it's a bit tricky on the colours.
I think that'd be a bit tricky, that one.
Narek, I have asked her if she'd be happy to do some more videoing, so I'll wait for her to come back to me on that.
Yeah, good. No, Tom was good value, as I say. DGEs, you happy with it so far? Good.
Yes.
Kenny's fine. Jane's fine.
And a few words.
Yeah. We'll what I'll do at the end, because we'll have the debrief at the end today, and I'll ask the facilitators before, when doing the close down, say if the facilitators can stay as well, because what was useful at the South Wales one, because after the first session, the DGE thought, oh, well, we don't really know what's going on in the breakouts, which is why we did the feedback part, because then that gives them direct feedback. But then in the debrief, we invite the facilitators, and then we give them a chance to feedback to you about how those discussions went.
Because then you've got more direct feedback. Debrief this afternoon.
Say again.
You want all of the facilitators or just a few?
Well, those that want to stay, really. I mean, I think we need to invite them, and then otherwise,
as long as I know who to put in the room.
Yeah. If they hang about, you can spot the ones that are hanging about and pop them in the room.
Yep.
Well, I think I've sold a mattress.
Oh, congratulations!
We've been doing this stuff. And they're coming to pick it up sometime this afternoon. So if I disappear, that will be because what I'm doing is giving them the mattress.
What did you sell it on?
I did not see that on the agenda.
You just weren't looking properly.
Yeah, Narek, you have no idea what's on my agenda.
Oh, I have no idea. That's
what platform did you sell it on, Chris?
Facebook.
Marketplace.
Yeah.
Marketplace. Oh, that's useful, because we've got a mattress.
Ladies and gentlemen, be warned that 30% of the marketplace are bogus sellers and buyers. I'm not making any direct accusation.
Well, this isn't a case of selling. I'm giving it, and I hope it's. I'm trying to look for Ukrainian names. We've just been the other charity I work with has just been found houses for 2 Ukrainian families, and they're getting their stuff off market.
Nice.
Yeah. Stuff seems to move quite quickly on there, I have to say, from what I've seen.
Well, one moved quicker than I could, so I lost that one. He wanted it yesterday.
But Dennis, you asked how is it going. I think it's quite good. We're quite on time. I think there is we haven't seen a huge drop in numbers. I think we lost around 6 or 7 people compared to the morning session. I think the speakers have been very, very good in the way that they presented, and as you know, when we started preparing for this, we wanted to separate the focus of the MD pets from the district pets, and I think that is working exactly how we envisaged it. Well, at least for me, I think we are focusing on the inspiring and the general approach of managing clubs and managing membership and supporting membership compared to the very specific areas that we want to address in district. So for me, it's really as I expected or as I hoped for.
Yeah, well, which is, as I said right at the beginning, what PETS is about is managing. It's the club. The focus with President-elect training on the RI curriculum is the club. And it's not foundation, it's not international and the other bits. And that's where you top it up locally and at your district assembly. So that's great. Good.
I'm
So
gonna,
how far are we in now?
we've got about 37 minutes left.
37 minutes left. Right. Okay. So once again, if anyone needs to make a brew or anything, you've got time now.
I was wondering if Kenny or James have anything to add in regards to their intake.
I was very impressed with Tom Gump. Made quite a lot of notes from what he had to say, so found it very useful.
Good.
I think it's very interesting, your speakers, and if it's giving the residents food for thought, that they can incorporate some of this information into their programs for the year, be much better for Rotary.
Absolutely.
That's great, Jim. Thank you. Yeah.
I think Joe also gave a fantastic practical things that the president-elect needs to focus on and need to be aware of, especially the new president, the one that are recycled presidents. They would either know or they would think they know how to do. But for new presidents, I think it's really good to have that reality check to say this is not just a badge. This is responsibility. This is accountability. This is care. This is management. This is leadership. This is a combination of everything. There is an element of knowledge. There is an element of asking for help. So I think Joe, you captured really well the what a president should know, and also realize their limitation and be open for change. I really like that idea of moving away where required and where necessary from a conventional council setting into why not the whole club is a council. When you have only 7 people in a club or 8 people or 10, what's the point of having another council for a small club? So there is so much options there for people to think out of the box rather than, oh, we can't do this. Why? Well, because it is what it is.
Narek, I mentioned that because that's what my own club has done. We threw out club council a little while ago, and I mentioned that at Warwick to the AGs, and nearly had a stand-up row with one of the AGs who just didn't get it.
Well, that's first of all because you're all control freaks in that club.
Shut your face.
No, but you've done the right thing. You've done the right thing.
Yeah.
You've done the right thing. What's the point?
We did it in our club as well.
Yeah.
So because we were finding that half the club were on the club council, we were having a separate meeting, and then you were having a monthly business meeting where you were updating the rest of the club. And we thought, no, this isn't working. Why don't we just have one monthly business meeting and have everybody involved in the discussions and in the decision making?
Yeah. I'm a very small club, and so we're 11 members, and we just have one committee. We call it the projects committee, and everything is gone through that. We have a chair for each different project, but they report to one committee and one council. Everyone's on council, everyone's in the committee. It's simple, if there's, so it works really well. So it's a great idea, Jim.
Also in doing it, I think, Joe, you were very good with the governance. That although you maybe throw the council onto the shelf and try a new way of working, the responsibility still rests with the president.
Yeah.
And they have to think about all those elements of finance, where they're going, and the rest of it.
The only conflict of interest when we have a very small when we have a very small club that basically turns into a council in itself or a project, when there is a one member issue, that sensitive issue that needs to be discussed confidentially, and then you need to pick and choose who you're going to discuss with. But that's, I'm sure, presidents and president-elects and secretaries and can be sensitive enough to approach that matter flexibly. But yeah.
I think we haven't had a council for some years. We're about 28. But we tend to just discuss whatever business is on each business meeting. But what I am probably going to bring back is just having informal meetings with President-elect, Treasurer and Secretary every 4 to sort of 6 weeks just so that we can deal with some of those issues, as you say. Sometimes you do have to take it out of the meeting.
Yeah,
But not a formal council situation.
I think
One
the
of the
thing
things I think would be a good idea is how the president deals with inner conflict. That happens. We may not like to think it happens, but it happens.
Yeah.
It was a good
Joe has
presentation
something to say.
last week.
Joe has something to say.
No, sorry, I was just going to say as well, with getting rid of the club council, it also means we're all volunteers. So you were then doing another night or giving more time, and time is precious, as Tom said. You know, it's family work and then Rotary. So to save people, you know, there's benefits all around if you're a small club.
Our club is not that small. We're around 35 members, but I think COVID had an impact on the way that we run the club. That post-COVID, we decided going back to the conventional once a week speaker and superficial touch on business matters was not helping. So we currently have twice a month with speakers. Once a month, a business meeting where the business matters is discussed in details, and all club members can vote, can participate, can decide, can propose. And then the fourth one is literally fun meeting, just a fellowship meeting where people can move around tables and sit down and have social conversations without having to go through any form of formalities associated. So yeah, it works. It works. I apologize. I'm going to go and make myself a good cup of coffee.
Yes, I think if anyone wants a break, then please
Yeah,
go.
sorry, me too.
Take a
Sorry.
brew.
Coffee.
I'm just going to have a
comfort break.
Yeah, I'm going to slip the kettle on again. Let's go through it now. Yeah, let's go through it now.
Everybody gone for coffee?
Yeah, it looks like the most of them have. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just moving away.
Are you? So how was your birthday in America then, Phil?
It was a bit of an anticlimax, if I'm being honest. It was such a busy day that I didn't really acknowledge it until late in the evening. But then I had about 15 Rotarians in about 7 languages sing me happy birthday in the bar.
Oh,
But it was
that's nice.
it was the last night that killed it for me. We went for a meal on the last night, and it was sort of outside of the training, and someone ordered a bottle of wine, as they do. Most people had ordered a beer, but this one particular Rotarian, whose name will remain unnamed, ordered a bottle of wine. The maitre d' came round later and said, this one's dead, do you want another one? I said, yeah, no problems, order another bottle, stick it on my tab. And it was $180 a bottle.
Oh.
So my meal for one steak, one main course, one steak, one side order, and a bottle of wine was $325.
Oh. Have you got the money
That'll
back?
teach you not to check next time. Yeah. Yeah. A bottle of house is how you reply.
No, that's outside every level of expense.
Yeah. Gosh.
And you can't claim that.
Hi, Trevor. He's
Oh,
gone.
No, I've moved him already.
All right, yeah, no. I won't claim it anyway.
Well, so likewise, Dave's birthday was over RCE, Multi-District Pets. It was actually on the Saturday, so on the Friday night when we were all there, I'd arranged with the hotel for a chocolate cake for him. So we had 14 Rotarians singing him happy birthday, and along with the restaurant staff.
Oh. I'm sorry, Andy, I didn't ask for the slide. I do apologise. Chris had put something in the chat and I thought, oh, did she mean that for me? So I thought better just ignore it.
No, it didn't matter. I had my finger ready and waiting to press the button, but I thought she's changed her mind, so I'll just leave it. It's going okay.
So did you have slides, Joe?
One slide.
I did have a slide, one slide.
Okay.
But I just thought, nah, I'll and I do apologise. Yesterday it was like I couldn't get my speech up to more than 10 minutes, and then somehow or other I've just added bits as today's gone along.
But sometimes just having that kind of bullet point and then talking through as you did is fantastic. You want it to be. It's not about just presentation. You want it to be real, and for such a real topic, club management, you want it to be really associated with the reality of club management rather than just hypothetical or theoretical approach.
It was really hard because it's such a dry. It's kind of dry, the financial stewardship and then the compliance documents, which I'm not sure that anybody else was going to mention. So I needed to make sure that was mentioned to them.
Yeah,
that they have to do that ASAP.
One thing I'm thinking how we're gonna. I mean, there is another topic for tomorrow, which is there is the planning the year and attracting new members and improving. I think the one area that probably we can cover through the district pets is the element of care and support through various kind of angles, whether it is retention, whether it is the mental and physical well-being, whether it is the enjoyment element. But I think that element of care and support for existing members, that soft angle, rather than just the management element. The management skill is the leadership skill, the leadership element of. But we already, for our district pets, we already have an external speaker that's going to talk about innovative leadership and change management. And in the afternoon, we're going to have a lady who's going to address mental health and well-being. And maybe we can add something about care and support. So talk about it.
I think that's a good idea. Your camera's not on. Is that?
Oh, sorry, because that's the Japanese emperor next to me. Apologies.
Yes.
Oh, you name dropper.
I think that's something that needs to be made. You know, we say to the assistant governors when we were down in Warwick that, you know, they need to build their support network. They need to, you know, everybody in the room with them is a potential support for them. And they've obviously got their other assistant governors. They've got the district team. I think that has to be made clear for presidents as well, that they need a support network as well, because sometimes there might be an issue that you don't want to talk to anybody in the club about, but you do want to just bat it off somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you would hope that the area, for example, meetings are a very good support network. On the other hand, having said that, I just heard how disastrous the recent, and I'm confidentially sharing this with you, how disastrous was the recent area meeting was, where one AG just spoke for 40 minutes rather than really enabling club presidents to talk about their own clubs. So there is an element to this that's almost embedded in the way that we do Rotary, and doesn't matter how much you say. This is about the club. This is about their needs. This is about their networking. Is still people do what they are used to do, which is let me give you the district map. For God's sake, no, what clubs? Yeah, I don't.
Was that, sorry, Nurek, was that area meeting the area that iMouth is going into?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd heard about it.
Yeah. But I know for sure that the incoming AG is very much exactly the opposite in regards to, I'm not here because what I need to say to you, I'm here because I want to hear what you have to say to me. So
because we'd actually cancelled our club meeting to go to that last meeting, but thankfully some of our newer members weren't able to attend, and Jim said thank God they didn't turn up, because it would have just put them off.
Yeah. And you know, that's the place where you want the president to be really supported by their AGs and have that peer support. But
so we will be reminding the presidents again at our district pets about compliance and insurance and what their responsibilities are. So it's it is a nice lead into what we're going to cover on the 29th.
And it actually was. We'd had Storm Arwen, and one of the local paths, somebody collared me and said, oh, you know, can Rotary do anything? And we went, oh yeah, that's fine. So off we went with a couple of chainsaws, and then afterwards one of our past district governor in my year, and we were telling her all about it, blah blah blah, and the look of horror on her face, and I hadn't thought insurance at all. It had just gone, because we were just doing it quietly. So hence there was no photos shown on Facebook with Rotarians in high-vis jackets with chainsaws. They have been buried.
I don't know if you remember the it's quite a long time ago now, probably 10 years ago, but there was, I don't think it was a Rotary event, but it was certainly a service club event, and they'd done a fireworks display and the smoke had billowed across the road.
It was a Rotary event.
Oh, was it? And there was an accident involving a car.
Oh.
And for 10 years, I ran our fireworks display, which was quite a sizable event. We used to get between 6,000 and 8,000 there. And but it's right by Knowsley Safari Park, and the bypass. I won't go into all the details, but there's a dual carriageway that bypasses this site. And someone said it happened the Thursday as our event was on the Saturday. And they said, oh, we're going to have to man it up. So we rang the police. We talked about closing the road. They thought it was ridiculous to close the road, but we should have some people on the road, and then they could radio back. And we had this like team of about 20 people. We had that in place for about 6 years and never had an incident at all. But it was all the risk associated with it. And the risk assessment, just the risk assessment for that highway work was about blooming 12 pages. And it was just horrific. And then someone said, well, what happens if we get a load of wind and it blows into the safari park? I says, well, it's quite a way away. You know, it's a mile. We have a bonfire, but it's not that big. It's not like we're burning down the town. And then they're all thinking about these like apocalyptic suggestions that might happen on the night that we're running. And I remember on the very, very last year that we did the fireworks display, obviously we're on the edge of Merseyside, so it's a big football blue and red town. And Liverpool were playing at home. It was on television. They were playing Everton at home, and it was on television. And it was absolutely pissing it down. And our 8,000 people that we normally got was down to about 1,300. No wind, no one on the road, no cars driving down the road, no chance of any accident whatsoever.
And the Lions were happy.
Yeah. But anyway, the Lions were lovely. Yeah, they really enjoyed it. You do have to think about these things.
Of course, for years we also ran a fireworks, so we were always working fireworks. And then one year my sister said, oh, come to this local one. So we came to the local one, but the fog was so bad we couldn't actually see if the fireworks go off at all. It completely covered everything. And it was sort of like after 10 minutes, everyone left because you couldn't see anything. It was literally that. It was very annoying. One time we could enjoy it. Yeah.
I know that's the when we did. I think the first 2 years we took out event insurance and then we stopped it. And basically, it's only wind that fireworks don't like. Rain is fine, snow's fine, everything's fine except wind. So if you've got high winds, it blows the fireworks off course, and you might have a problem with the fallout, the debris coming down. But we had it 1 year with fog, and we said, and they couldn't see the fireworks. I says, well, tough. You know, we collected the money and off we went. We had a few complaints that particularly. It wasn't a lot, but we did have a few complaints because of fog.
Act of God, though, isn't it? Not much you can
do about that, is there?
No. Yeah, the only thing that was going to stop us was wind. It was never windy enough to stop it. Yeah, anyway.
So, guys, now that the heads of all the teams and the leadership development team, do we have now an up-to-date list of the special advisors list?
Yeah, one was published the other day.
What do you mean the other day? How long ago?
This week, I received a PowerPoint with all the details of it on from the office. I'm sure I did.
I don't think we received anything.
Did
you receive anything?
No.
What's this? Sorry.
I did.
The list of the special advisors.
Yeah,
it came out. It's been out a couple of weeks, and it was in the newsletters. It was in the membership newsletter, and I think the public image newsletter.
Came through a few days ago.
And it took me a week to realise they'd spelt my name wrongly.
Oh, Chris.
Dennis, would you please just circulate it again?
Yeah, let me just see if I can just look in my
because
folder.
I called the district and club support team a couple of weeks ago, and they were still saying, sorry, we're still not ready, we're still getting it sorted. So interesting that it is out.
Yeah, it's called the SAT Guide, and it came from Antonia in the office.
Who did it go to?
Well, no, it's blind copied.
But it would have definitely gone to the DGEs.
Undisclosed recipients, but
it'll have gone to the DG train.
What date was that, Dennis? Because I don't recall seeing that either.
27th. I got it.
Nope, nothing. Nope.
That might have been
Specialist
nice.
Advisor Team Directory 23-24. It says.
It
will not be
Antonia, didn't it? So it may be that she was double checking that we got the names of things right.
So Dennis, I don't think that is then circulated wide enough. I think it is circulated to your teams, guys, just to double check the accuracy and everything else before it's widely circulated. So
Could be, I suppose, could be.
Well, I've had a look, Dennis, and I would have, and I don't
I haven't
see
received
anything
it.
either.
I haven't received it either, and I'm on LDT.
yeah.
So, Mr.
Actually, the one I got does say Rotary Great Britain Island Board and Specialist Advisor Teams only.
So it won't come to me. Well, no, it should come to me.
It should come to Bob.
Hasn't come to me.
I'm very sorry that I opened up a can of worms.
Hasn't come to me either, but I know I'm not worthy yet.
But,
I like the yet. That's the good.
But I mean, at Warwick,
What do you mean yet? What do you mean yet, John?
But at Warwick, we've been encouraging, the districts to work together and to use the SAT teams. But we need to have the details of being able to go to a cluster of people
and that was the
and
session
get
that
them
Joe was
involved in something.
No, I definitely have not received it.
I would drop Antonio a line then, Narek, and see if she's
I'm
able
just
to
going to send you it
circulate
now, Narek.
Sorry?
I'm going to send you it now.
Please do. The reason, I mean,
All right, can you send it to me?
of course, because you are definitely worthy, my dear. But the point is though, Joe discussed that same topic at Warwick, and we were, kind of trying to enable the AGs and the DGs and everybody else to engage with this special advisory team. For almost 2 months, we haven't heard anything. I contacted, we're still preparing it. Now we're preparing for our assemblies. We want our team leads to engage with these special advisory teams, to invite them. Yet there was nothing. So interestingly, I mean,
I'll have to do it later. It's on an email, and I've just got another couple of things going, but I'll send it later, Eric.
Okay.
Actually, Joe, you're in it.
Am I in it?
Well, it's 23-24, isn't it?
I'm in the thingy, but I've not seen it then.
Yeah, you are in it, but GDPR exclude you from receiving an email about yourself.
Is this why me so long to know my name?
Don't get me talking about GDPR.
Joe, we did not get your consent to share the information with you, so we will not send it to you about you.
What I want to know is where the hell they get that awful picture, because nobody's asked me for a decent picture.
No, never mind.
I bet it was when you went for your interview.
No, I don't think it is.
Mine was.
No, because that
How
was
much longer
online.
we got, Andy?
We've got 9 minutes to go.
9 minutes. Okay.
And more importantly, they didn't come out after 15 to this
Yes,
time.
yes. Well done.
I think the other thing is though too, Narek, just go and talk to them for goodness sake. It's
that's honestly. Sorry, I was just going to probably say something out of order, so that was probably a good interjection.
Just say it. We're all out of order here.
I was told that there wasn't a sufficient business case for me to have the DGE and DGN contact details.
Why?
What?
Well, I asked them that and they couldn't answer it. I had to write a business case of why I needed to have that level of data. And I said to them, I said, well, I'll just go get the information from our Annie. Because you can't do that because GDPR says they've never even heard of the word GDPR and they don't care. They'll just send it on an email to me.
We
totally understand about
management. We are on a management team level that we need to communicate with each other. We cannot communicate with each other without having each other's contact details. What kind of argument is this?
Exactly. I'm a million. People say 1,000,000%, and obviously it doesn't exist, but 1,000,000% with you. It's just unbelievable.
Now there is an alternative way of doing this. You give all people who have roles associated with Rotary a Rotary email. Then there is no need even to have a consent because it's a corporate email system.
Just the cost associated with that, Derek.
What cost? emails are free. It's the issue whether people will engage.
No, they're not. They're not free, but they're not free mode, are they?
Why?
Well, if you're running it on Office 365, there is a cost per account. It's £5 or £6 a month. It is.
I'm very sorry, Phil. Rotary RGBNI has a charitable arm.
No, we
charitable
don't.
Arm. What, you don't?
Rotary International, Rotary
Foundation has.
Yeah, Foundation has, but our IBI does not.
It doesn't matter.
IBI is a non-incorporated association. It's not a charitable arm.
It doesn't matter. Foundation can apply for the rotary.org.uk email address under 365.
Well,
I have one for my charity.
Well,
I have one for my charity.
They haven't.
Yeah.
Rotary GBI is not a registered charity.
No, I understand. Foundation is, and Foundation can get the domain, can register it under 365 domain, and can have the email address.
The problem is, Derek, it's a massive subject that we won't resolve that this afternoon, because Rotary Foundation Great Britain and Ireland is linked to Rotary Foundation in the US. There are another layer of rules associated with the expenses that particular organisation can incur under the American rules.
Right.
So it's very clear. It's a very clean charity. So there are literally very little expenses associated. Dennis will know more about it than me, really.
Well, I don't know about that, but there is a lot of they're very, very careful at GBI, obviously, not to cross lines with anything that could create a licensing issue, because if it's licensed to a charity, is that charity allowed to share those license access with another organisation?
Another arm, yeah.
And that's where they will be very, very cautious about crossing that line with anything like that.
So Dennis, as a past RGBNI president, what would be the downside of RGBNI having a charitable arm?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's been asked before, but because it runs as a business, it's VAT-able and all these other things.
You can.
There has been resistance to doing that. However, I believe, and members of the board may be able to confirm this, but I believe from discussion with Amanda at some time that it has been discussed more recently, and certainly, you see, because if we look at things like the
gift aid.
Rotary events management business that was set up for managing Expo. That was set up as a separate business, separate organisation for VAT purposes, etc., and to protect the business of GBI.
Or gift aid.
And for gift aid is another thing, but GBI is not a charitable organisation. It is an administrative body.
Yeah.
So it does not itself take charitable funds and look after them. That is done under the arm of the foundation. So it's separating the two. I mean, I can't give you an absolute
I can see that
answer, but it has been discussed many times and it's always been resisted.
So tomorrow I'm going to be preparing a draft document for my own district to propose establishing a charitable arm for our own district, because if we do so, we will be able to, first of all, engage in partnership with other third sector organizations under constituted body. Secondly, we'll be able to attract gift aid, and thirdly, we'll be able to attract third-party grants, which we cannot as a club.
So they're all possible. They're all possible, and they happen elsewhere in the geography of the world. But there are some steps that need to be taken in order that you get a clean run through under RI, because you are a chartered organisation under Rotary International. It's definitely doable, absolutely, but there are some steps and jumps to do in order that you maintain protocols with RI.
Well,
but definitely doable, because
of course doable.
There are incorporated districts elsewhere.
Of course, doable. Clubs have charitable arms. As long as we have a clear constitution for a charitable body that has a clear trustee system and a management system that has no conflict with the club and associations and with OSCA, then of course it's doable. And we have
we're just coming up to the end now, Derek. So and there's another minute, but I didn't want you to get Three-quarters of the way through a conversation.
Yeah.
Sorry, not
The
laughing.
conversation should probably be had with someone like Amanda.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Absolutely.
And perhaps the GBI treasurer.
Mm-hmm.
That's who to have the conversation with.
You just spilled your coffee.
Definitive
I
answer,
did when I heard the GBI treasurer. Sorry. That was a joke.
Okay, we are counting down.
Not quite.
Time to finish my tea.
Yeah, you got 36 seconds and then we'll start counting down.
You're going to call on the facilitators in the order that Bob mentioned them.
Yes, I am. So that's Ian McLean, Malcolm Halliwell, and Peter King.
Yeah, okay.
Right, we're on the 1 minute countdown now.
That's it. I'll be streaming back in any second then. The early deserters. Here we go. Welcome back to those who are just re-entering the room. We'll be joined by everyone else within the minute. Here they all come. Welcome back, everybody. And we're just into the final 5 minutes of our 10 minutes of our session this afternoon now. And thanks for returning. Before I go into feedback, just a quick one for facilitators. If you would care to hang around for 10 minutes at the end of the event this afternoon to join us in the little debrief, you'll be most welcome. Okay, so welcome back. I hope that was a constructive session for you. And as we did for the first session, just going to pick 3 facilitators at random here and ask for 1 or 2 points of discussion feedback, so how it went in your group. So may I call upon the first one, Ian McLean.
Thank you, Dennis. In our group, it was a very involved, everybody got involved in the discussion, which was good. And there were some very new ideas, I think, that came out of it. One of them was, I think it was Alan that said this, that their club has been donated a mobile trailer. And that is being used to promote Rotary at local events and has been very successful. Obviously, they stay in the local area and not intrude in other Rotary areas, but it's something that they do. Another Rotarian mentioned that they have a little brochure about membership, and it gives them a very brief description of asking who we are as a Rotarian, a little description of that, and what we do. And it says, if you look in the mirror, would you become a Rotarian? And it's got various events and so on that they promote during the year. A couple of other Rotarians in the group mentioned that they're looking at their council meetings And a number of, two of the clubs are looking at becoming club meetings for their business. And the events and projects are discussed openly in the club, and any discussion that goes on is heard by everybody present, and the decisions are agreed upon by the club members rather than council. And that's progressing at a slow pace because it's a fairly big change, but it's something that is being appreciated. Enrico is looking at another club in the area and working with them for joint projects, which is interesting. Linda and the Falkirk Club has operated a very successful membership drive, and it's been done through lettering business people in the town, inviting them to a fairly interesting venue, in this case a football stadium in Falkirk, and providing them with drinks and snacks and a presentation of what Rotary does, and a follow-up in terms of keeping contact with them. And that has worked very well. It's a drip feed. It's not been a large number of members coming in at one time, but there has been a regular number of new members coming in. And that's
successful. Yeah.
Callan also said in the last case, is that all right, Dennis? Can I keep going?
Keep going, one more.
Yeah, is that Callan and the Motherwell and Area District Club mentioned that they've been looking at, not for themselves, but they've identified that in small settlements, a get to know your Rotary night might be a possibility of being very more successful, because the smaller communities have an identity and a character and a culture. And if you found a suitable venue like a town hall, not in where the Rotary holds their meetings, it could be a potential winner of new members. And that's some of the feedback I can give, Dennis.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Ian. That's really good. Thank you very much. A couple of things just pick up on there is that, yeah, in many people's experience for promoting Rotary, joining other people's events, as you said, other local events is far more beneficial than trying to create your own events. Because if you just put something up where you say, oh, it's come and see Rotary, you might not get too many through the door. But if you join a local fete or a local festival and you have a stand there, you've got a captive audience that's walking past your stand, and you'll see a lot more people that way. And also the club council abandonment, if you like, almost, and just turning it into a club meeting is really quite a common approach now. In fact, we were discussing it in the main room not so long ago. I would just add one other thing there, though. For those who remember the club and leadership development plans that were published some 10 years ago or so now, there was proposal then to, within that plan, to drop the name council, and instead you have a club board. It's the same thing, but it's just terminology effectively. But a club board is far more modern terminology, if you like, if you're trying to bring younger business people into a club rather than council. So I just suggest considering that. Okay, next feedback. Malcolm Halliwell, please.
Group talking and putting their points of view. Pretty mixed group of clubs there, because very small clubs to bigger clubs. But the theme all the way through was everybody has the same issues at this moment in time, trying to attract new and younger members into the club and how to do it. One club came through talking about the continuity, the next president-elect, the senior and junior vice presidents starting to work together now to put together packages of socials and fundraising events that involve the community and moving forward that way. Another club that are meeting their local councils and village community halls and stuff like that, going to them and talking to them with a potential source of membership. But one thing that does come up, and it's come up a couple of times today, is the actual cost of Rotary. And yes, we know that the basic cost of Rotary is a cup of coffee. but it's then how do you generate the interest into people with Rotary's unique selling points of bringing people together who'd formed these COVID committees in their areas where they don't have to pay anything. And as somebody said, you can join the National Trust for almost nothing and volunteer. Rotary's not the same. But it's those points that need looking at and coming forward of how can we justify the subs of Rotary and the volunteering. And I think that's a theme so far. It's come quite a lot on the session so far today. Various other things about looking at different projects outside that Rotary can be involved with. One was like toilet twinning. Interesting, as that started this conversation with Rotary years ago, and the toilet in Chicago. Other things of the African project for bags to Africa, which has been very, very big for a club in Ireland, and they want to carry on with things like that. And it's partnering with different organisations and how you can move things forward as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Malcolm. Thanks very much indeed. Continuity is a term that we've heard throughout the day, and I know we'll hear it from Gordon tomorrow, and it'll crop up again. So continuity, really important. That it's not just your year, it's the club's year, and everybody's working together as a team, seeing it through. And another one there, the cost of Rotary. Well, we all know that it's expensive if you let it be, but the basic cost is actually very low in terms of membership of being a Rotarian. It's all the additions that clubs add that make it expensive. So my third facilitator, please, for some feedback is Peter King. Nice to see you, Peter. You're on mute.
Thank you. I am on mute, but I'm hopefully not on mute now. The very interesting conversations that we had. One of the difficulties, of course, with clubs and how they meet. Some meet face to face, some meet on Zoom, some have a combination of both. Some have quite a few members who like one but not the other. And the question is, how do we generate fellowship? And fellowship seemed to be quite important, and quite a long discussion about that. But a lot of people say, well, do other things as well as club meetings. So coffee mornings, for example, a way of getting to know people in a slightly different environment, particularly if you have a mixture of working and non-working. Sometimes it's easier to do that. Get involved with other clubs and other organizations in doing things like litter picking, quiz nights, fundraisers, race nights, golf competitions, sports competitions. Try and, as it were, engage in a wider community with activities to make the members feel that there's something really special going on, and not just sitting looking at one another over a meal. And I think that was really helpful. And the other one that was, I thought, particularly helpful was how you prepare for your succession planning of your officers, not just the president, but the secretary and the treasurer and so forth, and how it's helpful to have some idea of the skill set in the club as to what people would actually like to do, and to be encouraged perhaps to be working in that area. And of course, a lot of people, particularly those who are working, are a bit frightened on taking responsibility because they don't want to be lumbered. Is to have perhaps shadowing, have somebody who will be a mentor, or encourage the person to be the number two, with a view perhaps of taking it over at a later stage. And really important, communication. The club, healthy clubs really do need to share ideas and discuss, particularly with the treasurer. If you want accounts, make sure that's a regular, but also everybody is in communication with what everybody's doing, and that's a good way of sharing. So some really positive ideas that came out, and I was very encouraged to hear them.
Thank you, Peter. And it's encouraging to hear that some clubs are still working on Zoom as a hybrid meeting, for example, where you've got mixtures of people in room and out of room, because the technology is here to stay. We're using it today, and it's very successful. The term fellowship, well, it isn't that at the heart of what we belong to Rotary for, other than doing service. Fellowship, making friends, being with people, it is what it's about. And yes, wherever there are 3 or 4 of the club gathered, it could be counted as a meeting if you're meeting for fellowship, for a service project, or whatever it is. So that all counts. But the other important thing out of that one, Peter, was the succession planning. We've talked about continuity, and without succession planning, you're not going to have continuity. So we do need to